Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of the Glenorchy City Council on Monday, the 24th of February 2025. I'm Sue Hickey, Mayor of Glenorchy and Chairperson for this afternoon's meeting. Glenorchy City Council acknowledges the Muranina people as traditional owners of this land. While sadly the Muranina people did not survive colonisation, we recognise all Tasmanian Aboriginal people as the original owners and continuing custodians of the land and waters of this island of the Twitter. We pay our respect to Aboriginal elders, past and present. We commit to working for a city that welcomes and respects all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Joining me here in Council today is Alderman Tim Marks, Alderman Peter Riddler, Alderman Justin Stringer, Councillor Molly Kendall, our Deputy Mayor Russell Yaxley, our CEO Tony McMullen, Alderman Stephen King, Alderman Stuart Slade, Alderman Josh Cockshut and Alderman Shane Alderton. Before we open our agenda, I take this opportunity to make a statement about workplace health and safety. Glenorchy City Council takes workplace health and safety seriously, and this includes physical and psychological safety. We have a duty to ensure that a safe workplace is provided for our employees, elected members, contractors, volunteers and members of the public who may be present at Council's workshops or workplaces. Council meetings form part of Council's workplace, and it is expected that everyone who attends Council meetings will behave in a polite and respectful manner. Council has an endorsed statement of intent setting out how we as elected members have agreed to conduct ourselves in representing the people of Glenorchy. In accordance with this, any disagreement should be expressed respectfully, remembering both during the debate and in decision making that we are elected to represent and serve the people of Glenorchy and to make our city the best it can be. Finally, I note that the open section of this meeting is being live streamed and an audio-visual recording of the meeting will occur in accordance with the Council's recording of Council meetings policy. Members of the public are not permitted to make audio-visual recordings of Council's meeting. We have 25 items on our agenda this afternoon, and Agenda 1 is apologies. But we don't have any apologies tonight, which is lovely. We move on to item 2, which is confirmation of the minutes. Can I have someone? Thank you, Alderman Slade. And do I have a seconder? Sorry, thank you, Alderman Marks. So I put that to the vote. All those in favour, raise your hand. It's carried unanimously. The next one is announcements by the Chair. So if you can just bear with me, it's all good news. Wilkinson's Point development. The concept that Larry Kesselman is proposing for Wilkinson's Point would be an extremely exciting development for this city, particularly if it includes retail developments that our community has been asking for. Developing more family-friendly accommodation would also be a positive addition to our city and indeed to Greater Hobart. I would point out that as it stands, this is just a concept and nothing is currently before Council, nor has any planning permission been sought. The proposal will be assessed in line with our usual planning protocols should an application be lodged. The pool. The first part is the repair and reopening of the pool. Tenders for the repair of the pool were released on the 1st of February and are due on the 5th of March. There has been a high level of interest in both the tenders, so we are expecting a really good response. We are still confident that we will have the pool reopened later this year for summer 25-26. Now on to the redevelopment of the pool. We continue to lobby state and federal governments for the $83.8 million needed to redevelop the pool. I am scheduling meetings with all relevant politicians to run them through the case for funding, although we already have had preliminary meetings. I am also meeting with Lions, Probus, Rotary and other community organisations to brief them on the redevelopment of the pool and ask them to help advocate for funding. In fact, that's what we're asking of all of our community, to help us advocate for funding. We have also received strong support from the Friends of the Pool Incorporated, who are helping to get word out about the need to fund the pool development. Now we move on to signal box wrapping. This project is almost complete with 20 boxes now wrapped. Phase 1 was the test run with one box wrapped to make sure it would work. Phase 2 saw 9 boxes wrapped with artwork from the Be Kinder Foundation and an intergenerational street art competition that Council ran in conjunction with COTA. Phase 3 has seen 11 boxes wrapped with artworks from primary schools in the area. I think you'll all agree they're much nicer than the graffiti boxes that were there before. This is excellent news. We have a footpath sweeper and it's already in action, and I hope people have seen it out and about. This is part of our $600,000 investment in a cleaner city. As part of our efforts to keep Glenorchy clean, our new sweeper is in operation every weekday. The street sweeper has been joined by a new truck with pressure washers to clean seating areas, rubbish bins and graffiti more effectively. Both will be joined by a rapid response ute to handle smaller jobs quickly, freeing up the existing truck for larger jobs. We are currently working on branding to be added to the street sweeper and truck, and will soon be launching a competition to give the street sweeper a name. Just a warning, we don't want Mr. Street Sweeper. It's a nickname. Sweepy. That's the one. Thank you. But we do encourage anyone with some creative ideas to come forward. The Golden Years Club. The expression of interest process is still underway to find the right fit to continue vital services for our community, particularly those older members amongst us. There is a real lack of services for older people in Glenorchy who are at risk of loneliness, especially if they live alone. By continuing services for older people at this central location, we will ensure that our more vulnerable residents have a place to meet and recreate. Caring for our young people. Daily youth engagements continues Monday to Fridays on the GCC lawns, trying to reduce antisocial behaviour and encourage positive engagements. The youth team are now recording youth engagement numbers, and in January I'm missing it a bit. Can I have a little bit of help? 286. 286, that's wonderful. I encourage you to visit the lawns and see how many kids are engaged with our staff and who join us there every day. Not only are they provided with things to do in the afternoon, but they are also fed and provided with much needed referrals to job, health and wellbeing services if needed, and particularly someone to trust if they're in strife. To add to our youth support work, we have recently launched the Community Hub in the little red building next to the bus mall and chambers. Most people know it as the Labour Bureau, the Pensioner Building, or fondly as the Old Library. This building has been brought back to life and now supports Mission Australia, Glenorchy Jobs Hub and Pulse Youth Health to provide youth support and services. The Hub also offers a place for services such as digital training, community engagement and a space for other community organisations to work out of. If you're passing by, drop in, have a look and keep your eye open on our web page or Facebook page for updates on events, programs and services available at this hub. We are continuing to lobby government for funding to establish a dedicated youth hub as a safe, inclusive space to provide services, support and opportunities for our young people. Joint Anti-Racism Campaign. Glenorchy is proud to be joining councils of Greater Hobart in a bold and unified stance against racism. The Anti-Racism Campaign was developed with invaluable input from the Migrant Resource Centre and local representatives. It aims to foster unity and empowerment throughout Tasmanian communities, including Glenorchy, Brighton, Hobart, Kingborough, Clarence and Sorell. The campaign will be launched on Friday the 21st of March in conjunction with the Walk Against Racism from the Hobart Waterfront to the Parliament Lawns. Now today, the Newtown Rivulet renewal was opened or started. So today I joined Hobart Lord Mayor Anna Reynolds to announce the start of the $2 million restoration program of the Newtown Rivulet Estuary. And I've got to say that graphic up there, it shows just how wonderful that place will be. There'll be paths on either side of the rivulet, so one on the Glenorchy side and one on the Hobart side. But the restoration is being done by the two councils combined, which I think is fabulous. At the moment, if you go there, you'll see these ugly, cracked cement walls, which look really unattractive and have rubbish trapped in them. So it'll be returned to sort of like a nature reserve, which I think is fantastic. There'll be 45,000 trees and plants, and some of them are plants that are at risk of not surviving. Sorry, what do they call that? Threatened. That's right. Threatened species. And I think, you'll see that's very much worth the money. The Moona Arts Centre 10th birthday. Moona Arts Centre will celebrate its 10th birthday on Saturday the 8th of March from 12 to 2 p.m. You're all invited to come along and enjoy live music and pop-up performances from some of Tasmania's most engaging artists and performers. The bar will be open and there'll be food and coffee available to purchase. Entry is free and everyone is welcome. For more information, please visit the Moona Arts Centre's website. Right, pecuniary interest notification. Do we have anyone who wishes to declare a pecuniary interest? Thank you. CEO?
I'd like to declare an interest in item 11, appointment of elected members to 2 proxy positions on the CEO Performance Review Committee, and item 24, appointment of recruitment consultant, for CEO recruitment.
Okay, thank you. We don't have to move that one. No. Noted. And yes, thank you, Deputy CEO.
I'd like to also declare the same interest as CEO.
Thank you. Noted. And then item 5 is response to previous public questions taken on notice, and you'll see there's a question there from Manfred Gutman, who's with us again today, and the answers are on the agenda. Now we move on to public question time, and yes, Mr. Gutman, would you like to come to the front table? I'll just quickly read through the rules. The council meeting is a formal meeting of elected members elected by the Glenorchy community. It is chaired by the Mayor. Question time is an opportunity in the formal meeting for the public to ask questions of the elected council representatives about the matters that affect ratepayers and citizens. So the rules are: questions must relate to activities of council. Members of the public are to announce their name and residential address before asking a question, which will be recorded in the minutes. Questions are to be put succinctly and in the form of a question, not a comment. Questions must not be inflammatory, abusive, defamatory, contain a personal attack or otherwise breach any rules of the meeting which have been explained by the chairperson. The chairperson may limit the number of questions, but I don't think we need to do that today. And the chairperson will decide the order in which the questions are asked. That goes without saying. And the chairperson, in their absolute discretion, may refuse to answer a question if the chairperson deems that it's inappropriate or does not comply with the rules of the council meeting. I can take a question on notice, in which case the answer will be provided in writing prior to the next council meeting. And if it is taken on notice, the chairperson may request that the member of the public submit their question in writing and may refuse to provide a response if the question is not as provided as requested. The 15-minute allocated question time may be extended if we need to. Mr. Gutman, would you like to join us at the table? Can I just check, is it Gutman or Goodman? Goodman, thank you.
German board.
Ah, ich spreche nur ein bisschen Deutsch. Yeah.
So,
thank you.
Can Council under transparency and good governance confirm that my detailed email from 8th January 2025, in which I had no reply other than a choice of 4 emojis, which has a TGA FOIA 25-0058, countering Council's email links to TGA sites claiming safe and effective COVID vaccines, is contradicted with the internal TGA memos showing that TGA knew very well of contamination and real integration risks, but did not relay this to public based on what it would look like, and has Council forwarded my document requesting again a royal commission into the COVID response and suspension of COVID vaccines in our area to state and federal authorities as requested. Based on this new data, the death signal of COVID vaccines is 3,750 times higher than the signal that led to the withdrawal of contaminated polio vaccines in the 50s.
Okay, Mr. Goodman, just for future, I've let you explain because I know how passionate you are, but you have to ask a question, not give us like a debate. That's for future reference. So So I'm going to defer this to the CEO.
Thank you, Mayor. So Council as a government authority, a local government authority, follows the public health advice of state and federal health authorities as the best way of fulfilling our health and safety duty. The Therapeutic Goods Administration is aware of misinformation in recent media and online reports that claim the COVID-19 mRNA vaccines are contaminated with excessive levels of DNA. This is not the case. These reports are based on studies conducted by a small number of laboratories that have attempted to investigate the amount of DNA in COVID-19 vaccines. While the TGA welcomes and constantly reviews the latest scientific evidence about the safety of vaccines and other biotechnology products, these recent studies fail to apply the required scientific rigour expected in pharmaceutical testing. As such, the results are not robust or reliable and are creating confusion and concern regarding the safety of vaccines. The TGA reassures the public that all COVID-19 vaccines approved in Australia have been rigorously assessed and meet our high standards for safety, quality and efficacy. Vaccination against COVID-19 is one of the most effective ways to reduce the risk of death and severe illness from infection. The protective benefits of vaccination far outweigh the potential risks. I'm going to read out the key messages of a statement from medicine regulators around the world about the good safety profile of COVID-19 vaccines. COVID-19 vaccines significantly reduce the risk of severe disease, hospitalisation and death from infection with SARS-CoV-2. I'll call that COVID from now on. COVID keeps changing and revaccination may be needed to maintain protection against new variants and continue saving millions of lives worldwide. Evidence from the more than 13 billion of vaccine doses given worldwide shows that COVID-19 vaccines have a very good safety profile in all age groups. The benefits of the approved vaccines far outweigh the possible risks. The vast majority of side effects are mild and temporary. However, safety monitoring pharmacovigilance systems have identified some very rare, occurring in less than 1 in 10,000 people, but serious side effects. Medicines regulators around the world have put in place measures to reduce the risk of harm from these side effects. As for all medicines, reports of medical events after COVID-19 vaccination, that is suspected side effects, are collected and continuously evaluated by the authorities. These evaluations show that in most cases, the medical events were not caused by the vaccine. False and misleading information about the safety of COVID-19 vaccines on social media often exaggerates the frequency and severity of side effects. Misinformation also wrongly attributes unrelated medical events to the vaccines. Vaccine misinformation leading individuals to decline vaccination has very likely led to many more deaths than adverse effects of the vaccines. There is no evidence that COVID-19 vaccines have contributed to excess mortality during the pandemic. Excess mortality largely coincides with peaks of SARS-CoV-2 infections, particularly during the first waves when vaccines were not available. In fact, there is strong evidence that COVID-19 vaccinations save lives and prevent the serious harm associated with SARS-CoV-2 infection. Emerging evidence also suggests that long COVID is less likely to develop in people who have been vaccinated. There was a reference, I think, in Mr. Goodman's communication with Council that there was a conflict of interest from Council as a result of directives that directed staff to be vaccinated during the COVID pandemic. Those directives were required to protect Council staff from COVID and reduce the likelihood of spread of COVID to others, including other staff members, family members and community members. This was consistent with my duty as person controlling the business and undertaking under the Work Health and Safety Act 2012.
So, Mr Goodman, it's not within the sphere of this council to be able to deal with your concerns, but may I suggest that you take it up with your local members of state government, because that's where you're likely to have more influence. And we do not vaccinate anybody here. Thank you.
May I ask to have this document forwarded to me?
Yes, that will be fine.
And in regard to the question without notice, the answer I received is not what I asked for.
Well,
I did not ask for the administration.
right. I'm sorry about that, Mr Goodman, but we've given you, some time to question, and it's just not in our sphere of influence. So it will be all recorded in next month's agenda.
Thank you.
On public record. Thank you. And once again, thank you for your passion. And Janice, thank you. Ms. Brian.
Janice Bryan, Montrose. Thank you. Just got a little bit of a preamble before the question, if that's okay. In 2014, the Glenorchy City Council demolished the Young People's Skate Bowl and adjacent public-owned buildings as used as youth and recreation centres to build the Glenorchy Health Centre. The council agenda item 8 on the 23rd of September 2013 discusses providing a youth centre that is accessible to all young people with youth-specific group and creative spaces. It stated that there were concerns at that time for the wellbeing component for youth being lost. It asked if valuable services are lost in the demolition of the current centre at O'Brien's Bridge, will those valuable services be accessible somewhere else? There were questions about the continuation of the current successful 2013 programs like Altered, Music Room, Music Studio, conveniences and open access. So my question is, will council consider using part of the substantial Golden Years Club, it's a very large building, as a perfect and safe location for youth arts and recreation centre activities in conjunction with maintaining areas for the much needed activities for older community members?
Thank you. I do know that that is a very popular venue, and we have some competing interests trying to access it as the head lease. I think council's view is that it should be reserved for older people. There's a lot of services that we need, physical activity, dementia cafe, the old timers, the music that's played on a Tuesday night, and also provision of food or access to services, but predominantly for elder people. We hear your concern about youth, and as you would have heard in my preamble, we have got a particular focus on youth at the moment, and we have opened this little hub. We have put a lot of money into it, thanks to a benefactor, and we would love to have something of the scale you're talking about, but we have been pleading with the state government to give us some funds. Happy to have your help to advocate for additional funds. But at this stage, we haven't made a final decision on the Golden Years Club. Thank you. I wanted to go there myself, where I'm going, and but we will factor in your concerns. Do you have anything to say, General Manager, CEO?
Nothing further, Mayor, apart from the fact that we obviously at this stage we're still going through the expression of interest process, so we need to see what is brought forward to us before we can bring those to council for due consideration. And
we are working very closely with the police. We've reduced recidivism just recently by about 23%, I think the inspector told me. But we have our own staff out on the front lawns every day of the week, and we're involved with other not-for-profit organisations in trying to assist youth at risk.
The old croquet club building, is it possible for that to be just used in some way for the youth?
I'm getting a shake of the head there. I'll ask the acting CEO, Deputy CEO, big pardon.
Thank you, Mayor. It's not in good condition. It's actually deteriorated quite a lot. We have looked at it to see if it should be refurbished and put to another use, but it will take significant work to get it up to a reasonable standard.
But we do
It's not
support your,
impossible though. It's not impossible.
that has to go to an expression of interest process anyway. So by all means, we support what you're saying. Right, do you have a second question?
No.
No, thank you.
That's the most important.
Okay, thank you. And then we have Eddie. Thank you, Mr. Steenberger.
I'll be brief.
That's okay.
I'm Eddie Steenbergen. I live in Rosetta. Get that out of the way. This is about the agenda item about the open council workshops. I'm very pleased to see that the agenda item recommends their continuation. Very pleased about that. But I was a bit surprised to read in the agenda item the possibility that the council might actually run out of suitable topics. It sort of rather flabbergasted me given the incredible range of activities around council. So my question is, did council consider asking the public what topics they may be interested in?
I think we have asked at most open workshops if people have ideas, and certainly we do discuss it with different, amongst ourselves for a start, and then also with the staff, and everyone is looking for suitable people to be able to present really interesting topics that we would normally get like in our own workshop, but be able to share with the general public. But we really welcome any ideas. So if you have something that you've got particular interest in, by all means, you can put it forward.
The reason I'm bringing it up is because I was rather disappointed there was no follow-up
Oh, sorry about
to
that.
those workshops,
Yeah.
as far as I could tell, or that I noticed.
Yes, well,
So I wanted to ask
it's
the participants.
have you enjoyed them?
Yes, and that's what I was asked at every workshop, and I said yes every time, but that doesn't count for feedback.
Well, thank you. I think it's very interesting feedback because we have it on the agenda item for debate. So we appreciate your input. Thank you.
Thank you, that's it.
And look forward to a string of ideas. Okay, we do have a question on notice from Michelle Austin at Glenorchy that was received on the 29th of January 2025. The question and answer are in the agenda. We have a question with notice from Eddie Steenbergen again from Rosetta, received 6th of February 2025, and he was asking for clarification on the nature of waste from the facility clean away, and the answers hopefully as provided to your satisfaction, yes, in our agenda papers. Item 7, petitions and addressing council meeting deputation. Do we have any? No, thank you. Activities of the mayor. They're a little lacklustre this month because I had to take sick leave, and I'm very grateful to our deputy for stepping in and helping out. But I asked for somebody to move this one. Oh, Councillor Kendall, thank you. A seconder, please. Thank you, Alderman King. Any discussion, Councillor Kendall? No. Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you, Shane.
Yeah, thank you, Meg. I have a question, and it's in regards to your interview with Mel Bush regarding Glenorchy's infrastructure cycle plan. There's a lot of interest in Glenorchy, in case you're not aware, in light of what's been happening in Hobart with cycle lanes and such. So I'm just wondering if there's anything of interest you can share with us today in regards to your conversation with Mel Bush.
Well, from memory, it's a little while ago, it was about the positive benefits of cycling, and particularly in the city, and the fact that Glenorchy has 10% of its population with no access to a vehicle. And unfortunately, Alderman Alderton, public transport's not always as reliable as we'd like it to be. But yes, so there's a lot of people now advocating for all the health benefits of cycling. And I think from the workshops and discussions we've had as council, and certainly the tremendous amount of work done by our officers, we are looking to the future for alternative methods of accessible transport.
Excellent. I'm quite sure when we present something to the community, it'll have some great interest. Thank you.
Yes, I think we have discussed it, have we, Deputy CEO? Did we bring it to a council meeting?
That's a workshop there.
Oh,
We'll see the results of the community engagement that will come back from council meeting.
Well, that might be a great topic for an open workshop. Thank you. So I have a mover. Councillor Kendall, do you want to add anything? Okay, thank you. No other questions. I put the motion. All those in favour, raise your hand. It's carried unanimously. Now, we have item 9, the Community and Volunteer Awards, change to the award categories. Do I have someone to move? Thank you, Alderman Slade, and thank you, Alderman King. Try to talk to it, Alderman
Yeah,
Slade.
thanks, Mayor. Look, all these things, and this is the third year probably we're into it now. Things don't always work the way it should, and most of these events work very, very well. Last year's event went well. I think the thrust came through really good. The fact that for the main thing that we start to follow what state and federal parliament was doing by having your local hero, your young citizen of the year, and your citizen of the year and senior citizen, so we could fit in with that. And to me, that made sense. There was a couple other categories, because bearing in mind, we used to have the Citizen of the Year in the Australia Day Awards, and that's now been put off. So we have them all together now on the recognise that during Volunteer Week, which is normally in May of each year. So I support that. But as a result of that, we ended up with a lot of categories, but not many people standing for them. So I'm all about, Mayor, of having quality and not exactly quantity. And I'm happy the way that the recommendation reads now, that it continues on the way it is. With the removal of the Sports Achievement Award and the Business Person of the Year Award. Now, by me saying that, that's not saying that we're not recognising that that's not important, but they certainly are encompassed very quickly through the whole project or through the nominations in other formats. So their efforts won't be sort of forgotten. But at the end of the day, there wasn't a lot in the last couple of years. So that's why, and we're trying to simplify so it's got more value to it. So on that basis, as I said, the sports and business people will still be able to nominate, but it'll be through the general volunteer area for that. On that basis, I'm looking forward to see how this goes again this year. I think we've learned a lot, Mayor, and I think the forthcoming event in May will be successful with some good applicants, and looking forward to being part of that team. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Thank you, Lord Deputy.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'm a member of the working group for the awards as well. And the report does note that the working group recommends the change, which is not entirely accurate, as I don't agree with the recommendations. I appreciate that there may have been some communication errors within that, but I'm certainly not for the recommendation to remove the two. I feel that this would be a backward step in terms of our awards. We've certainly combined the 4 awards, these 4 Australia Day awards, with the volunteer and then we've had the community awards with the business and the sports award, which we have had in the last couple of years. And the combined event has really recognised the whole of our city. It's brought up different aspects from within our community, not just the volunteers, but people from sport, people from business, people, older people, younger people, volunteers. And it's been a really positive process in the last 2 years to see that, to celebrate what was good in our city and to showcase it in a positive light. So I would be expecting that we should be adding awards to this side of things, potentially an arts award or an environmental award or some other type of thing where it's the community's recognised as a whole, and to move forward from there. So, the overwhelming comment has been from the feedback from elected members and council staff and those nominated, and then also those that have won the awards, how good the awards were and how much improved the event has been. So we've seen increasing of pride, increasing of inclusion, and it's certainly taken the whole aspect of the community. So I appreciate that the numbers of the entries was a concern, and I can appreciate that can be an issue. It's something that we had recognised as a working group, and we had, as a group, suggested that potentially getting it advertised earlier and approaching different people earlier would help. So that is an operational side of things. The strategy and the purpose for the awards is what we really need to be considering here tonight. Strategy and the vision of the awards should lead the operations, not the other way around. We're only in stage year 2, and I just feel it's premature to remove the Sports and Business Awards when our community is a wide range of categories and people, and I would like to see this increase rather than decrease. So that's my thoughts behind that.
Okay, thank you, Alderman Alderton.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I share similar views to Deputy Mayor, actually, in the concern that we've changed it. Well, if we agree to this, we're changing it twice now within a very short period of time. What you seem to be moving towards seems to be very simplified in the fact that we're only going to have 4 awards, so it's going to be a much shorter ceremony, a much shorter process. I'm concerned that it may reduce participation numbers, both in forms of nominations, because there's not a depth of awards that people can nominate for, if we're doing away with the sports and the business person award. And I too would like to maybe see it expand a little bit further and recognise all those people that do a lot of hard work, are volunteers, and everybody in the community that do a lot of hard, unrewarded work. And I just think by simplifying it down to 4 awards, do we lose the value of it? Do we lose the point of it? And it becomes something that's very short, sharp, with 4 awards. And I just think that some of the community may lose interest.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Point
Thank
order.
you. Sorry?
Just want to
Point
clear,
order? Yes.
yeah, it's, the other awards there is still volunteer awards.
Yes.
It's not just the 4 awards that are listed there. We're still going to have volunteer awards.
Thank you. Alderman Cockshutt.
Thank you, Mayor. I tend to agree with the Deputy Mayor and my fellow Alderman here. I think it worked quite well last year, the event. It was received well from the community. I think it's important as well to recognise, the sporting people and business who are in the community and the other categories, and I too would want to see it expand over time. Totally get nominations can be hard to get sometimes, but I still think that it's kind of the 9 nights to celebrate all aspects of the city. And I think that entails it quite nicely where we can recognise people from different walks of life who are doing great things within the community. And I think taking away 2 of those categories does limit it back to the 4. So I would personally like to see them stay and see it grow over time, but I guess it's the recommendation from the group.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you, Councillor Kendall.
Thank you. Yeah, just along a similar lines, I've been noting that there was no material difference really in how many were awarded. And I imagine that the reason that the diversification happened, along with aligning with state and federal movements, was the idea that you get more applications if you had more categories, so people could imagine, I know this business person, that business person, and suggest them to apply. But do we have any evidence before or after that diversification happened as to whether we got more applications when the more categories were there?
If I'm a member of the committee, it actually was a matter of going out and asking people to nominate or like that. So we don't want to take away from the calibre of people who have received those awards, but it was very, very difficult. And as a former Telstra Businesswoman of the Year, I have to tell you that the criteria for judging a business is so complex. Because what is a successful business? And if they are volunteering for the community, they can fit any one of those categories or their regular volunteering, which is what we're about, encouraging people doing something and putting themselves out to help others. Whereas business, hopefully their reward is profit, or if it's not for profit, we hope that they achieve their goals. But you've got small, medium, large, and then you've got not-for-profit, and it gets very complicated. So what I'm saying is the Telstra Business Awards are rigorously judged on your financial capability, what you contribute to the community, all sorts of things, including doing volunteering in the community. We don't have that capacity. We literally don't. And when you've got staff going out and trying to come up with names for 2 categories. There are also a lot of sports awards. So I hear what the deputy's saying and I appreciate his passion, but to be honest, at the committee we decided that they were not categories we wanted to pursue. And if you remember, Alderman Dunsby was most put out when they were put into the volunteer awards. But it doesn't limit the capacity of business people. In fact, we encourage them to be benefactors to their community or to give their staff volunteering hours. And maybe that's something we could look at as an organisation rather than a business. But
Point of order, I think, I'm not going to make a comment, I don't think the question has been answered.
yes, whether or not
The numbers.
we know we had to scrape to get
No,
there.
there was a,
Do you have that information, Christine? No, but it hasn't been a big take-up, which is why the staff are recommending. Anyway, anyone else like to contribute? Alderman King? You're happy? All right, Alderman Marks? Alderman Riddler? Thank you. Alderman Stringer? Are you happy with your answer, Councillor Kendall?
Yeah.
Okay, anyone else like a second contribution? No, I'm going to put that motion. All those in... Oh, yes, sorry.
Yeah, no, look, thanks, Mayor, and comments from my colleagues around the table. I just want to emphasise the fact that we had trouble getting people standing. There's been an incredible amount of dollars from the council put through very, very hard work through the, our normal thing for Facebook and other forms of advertising, and that still didn't do. And we were actually chasing people at the last moment. Now, to me, that's not a good award system at all. So that's why I think now coming down to those 4 wards there, then you've still got the volunteer ones as well, embraces the theme that we're trying to do, embraces inclusiveness, embraces other people in the community to participate, and I support the recommendation.
Thank you. Okay, so if we've had sufficient debate, I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour, raise your hand. So it's going to be contested. So we have Alderman Marks, Alderman Riddler, Alderman Stringer, the Mayor, we have Alderman King and Alderman Slade. Those against? So we have Councillor Kendall, the Deputy Mayor, Alderman Cockshut and Alderman Alderton. Thank you. The motion is carried. Not unanimously. Item 10 is the regional land. Sorry?
Just in hindsight, I thought I would do a conflict with this one, so I might just step out.
The regional land use strategy. Okay, thank you. Got that recorded. Thank you. The regional land use strategy, response to the minister's proposal to extend the urban growth boundary. This should be a very interesting debate and I look forward to it. Who's going to move the motion? Thank you, Alderman Marks. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Alderman Alderton. Right, Alderman Marks, would you like to lead the discussion?
No.
Open it for debate? Yes. Thank you. Alderman Alderton, would you like to add a contribution then?
Yes, certainly. I find it disappointing in this report that really there's very little input about Glenorchy. It focuses in great depth on Clarence, Kingborough and the city in regards to identifying areas for affordable housing. And I just wonder why we weren't included in the report in any detail. Is anyone able to clarify?
Well, I think we'll either pass it over to the CEO, who's very attached to Strellis.
Through me, I might, and I've also got the manager and the coordinator for the area in the room, but I might make a start if I make a cry for help, perhaps they could assist. The situation is that we've been working probably over the last 18 months as part of a regional project to review the land use strategy. It was probably approved in around about 2012, off the top of my head, after an extensive process back then. And there's been a lot of work done right around the region to try to look at, regional land use strategy 2.0. What's happened is that very late last year, the Minister announced his intention to review the urban growth boundary very close to the end of the review process for the strategy itself. So it's effectively come over the top. And the Minister has announced these proposed inclusions within the urban growth boundary, which amount to approximately just shy of 10,000 dwellings. Now, some of those were already, I guess, in the mix for the regional land use strategy, but something like 3,800 dwellings capacity in Clarence was certainly not part of that consideration. And we're not saying that that's at this stage that even the ones that were included outside of Clarence were definitely going to get the go-ahead from the regional project. So, yeah, I guess our concern has been that this has really compromised the orderly review of the regional land use strategy. Council officers certainly understand the importance of housing and housing supply within the region, but we understand that there are already extensive areas of land yet to be developed for housing within the existing urban growth boundary, and to expand that even further, both extensive parcels in Clarence, as I said, in addition to what's already there, as well as other areas outside of the 4 inner metro councils, really does create a bit of an open slather situation, and so that is our concern. Now, I'm not sure whether the coordinator or the manager have anything additional comments to add.
Would you like to join us at the table?
Thank you, through you, Mayor. So I guess the only other element of that to add is that through the development of the Greater Hobart Plan, it was identified that there was actually adequate land. So we've already, Glenorchy City Council had committed to that plan. So therefore, seeking to expand further as part of that regional land use strategy process seemed inconsistent with our commitments. The other, I guess, key element is that Glenorchy, from the strategic planning area, is trying to promote infill. We have some areas up in Grantham, which we're hoping to, we're working closely with the applicant at the moment to develop that for a different, we might have a mix of infill and, standard residential density development. So we've got that area as well. Once you start to expand the urban growth boundary, you've got to provide infrastructure. That costs money. There is no developer contributions system set up in Tasmania, unlike every other state in the nation. So council would have to pay for that, because we can't get the money from developers to contribute to that. You start to push people out further. Council has to pay for that infrastructure, and then people living out further beyond that urban growth boundary then start to have to pay for, more cost for fuel to get into services, see their doctor, socialise, etc. So the planning, I guess, reasons behind Glenorchy and Hobart as well, I don't want to speak for Hobart, but neither Glenorchy or Hobart have added or wanted to add at this round of the regional land use strategy review extra land because of those reasons. That's why we've committed to our numbers in the Greater Hobart Plan for all of those reasons. Adding extra land in and just throwing it in there for possible consideration was inconsistent with that commitment.
Thank you.
Can I just add a couple of other points on top of that too? So the coordinator mentioned the Greater Hobart Plan. When that was developed, we were looking at 60,000 more people in Greater Hobart and 30,000 additional dwellings up until 2047, I think. We've seen, so at that stage, that number was enough, that supply was enough to accommodate the growth, the entire growth of Greater Hobart, just within the 4 inner metro councils. That would have obviously meant, a more built up, one with more choices around medium density housing, in addition to the substantial, we have something like 80% single dwellings already. So there's a substantial single dwelling sort of family focused housing stock. What we need to do is provide more housing for our changing demographic in terms of younger people, young couples, elderly people living alone, that sort of demographic. So whilst there's already enough under the Greater Hobart Plan, and we know there's even more outside of that under the current Strellis. The Minister's going even further and adding another 10,000 nearly land for another 10,000 dwellings on top of that. The other point that was made by the coordinator was that we're just increasing more and more, I guess, easy to develop land in paddocks around Greater Hobart. What does that mean for our densification along the Northern Suburbs Transit Corridor? It means that there's no incentive for development to take place along the corridor because it's just much more easy to go out and build a house in a paddock somewhere. So they're the major reasons why we have those concerns, and they're set out in the proposed submission.
And Deputy, you'd like to make a contribution?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. The only probably comment on is for vision and the goals around the Glenorchy City Council. It's been very well written. It's certainly taken note of what our team has provided tonight. So I just hope that the state government reads and takes notice of it and considers the impact for our city moving forward.
Thank you. Councillor Kendall?
Thank you. Yeah, just to echo some of the comments that have been made around the table, I'm really happy with this recommendation and with the strength of the letter to the Minister. So thank you for management, and I think it's a really important point. Like, you could say that no extra land has been identified in Glenorchy, so we shouldn't really care about this. But I think in terms of our commitment to the Greater Hobart Plan, it is really important and impactful because it's a pact with those other Greater Hobart municipalities that we will uphold the goal, which is towards densification, underutilised land and urban consolidation. And so ad hoc as we're saying, ad hoc extras on the side just takes that pressure off and doesn't incentivise developers to go in a city. So and I think ratepayers should care as well, as you've mentioned about the impact on the hip pocket of councils having to pick up the infrastructure costs for greenfield development. So very happy with this. Thanks to the management.
Thank you. Anyone else like to make a contribution? No? Well, I fully support this motion for reasons the Deputy and Councillor Kendall have explained, and our officers and CEO. To me, it makes no sense. We're just putting people further and further out. We don't have public transport case. This is about building capacity for really good public transport. We want affordable houses, and sticking them out in the Bronx on a quarter-acre block is not the solution. So I think increasing density, which has been the strategy for Glenorchy, is really important. We want to bring people to the services and, as I say, start building that case for really good public transport to get key workers into jobs. I kind of find this really, really odd because it doesn't have a case, as the officer has said, for who's going to fund all this infrastructure. And whether you're just putting people out on the outskirts is not a good planning solution by any stretch of the imagination. So I'm fully supportive. If there's no further debate, we'll go back to Alderman Marks. Do you have any contribution? No, thank you. We'll close the debate then, and I'll put that recommendation to you. All those in favour, raise your hand. That is carried unanimously. Thank you, and thank you for your work. Now, yes, we have two people who have to leave the room.
Let the Alderman King come back in.
Thank you. Thank you. Are you happy? Yes, you can circulate. We're just waiting for Alderman King, and he's here.
And the CEO and the Deputy CEO.
That's right. Now, for the members of the public who are watching this presentation, we're about to appoint elected members as 2 proxy positions on the Chief Executive Officer's Performance Review Committee.
Can we circle just one or both?
There's 2 positions and it's for the duration of the CEO recruitment process. So
you circle just one.
one for this vote. We have 4 candidates: Alderman Alderton, Alderman Cockshott, Councillor Kendall, and Alderman Midler.
No 1 and 2 or anything like that.
No, it's, you just want to circle round.
And it'll be the top 2. Top 2 for the successful.
He's paid that to me, so.
Yeah, so you just vote for one person?
Only 1.
On this one, and then we'll do a separate vote for the second person.
No, that's no.
Oh, that's it. Oh, I see.
So say there's,
Preferential.
yeah, it's, no, says, that you've got 10 votes and one person gets 4 votes, one person gets 5 votes, and one person gets 1 vote. It'll be the people who've got 5 and 4 votes who are the,
So if we get 3 3s,
if we get 3, 3 and
Get the magic
1,
ball,
2,
yeah.
then we go back to another ballot. And then ultimately, I do have my very special point, Cliff, we need to use it per policy.
But just explain to why we're asking for 2 people, why I'm not doing 2.
Because our policy states that if there's more than one position vacant, it's the top 2 scores that will get those 2 available positions.
Is everyone happy with that?
Would you like me to read the section?
No,
Like,
that
probably
is
say
very,
really-
that's strange, but I know what you mean now, but gee whiz.
normally go 1 2 3 4. And
Yeah.
Yes.
2.
Yes.
That's,
No, for the committee.
So we 1 and 2.
No.
No, we don't want to.
Let me be like 100%.
Only when we vote.
Yes.
One.
Does look a little chaotic, but
I'll just read the relevant section
thank you.
of the policy. So where there are more than 2 candidates for multiple positions, which is the situation we're in today, the successful candidates will be the candidates with the most votes in descending order until the number of positions have been filled. For example, if there are 2 positions and 4 candidates, the successful candidates will be those with the highest and second highest number of votes. Does that make sense?
No.
it's a very strange process.
Yes, I would have thought we put them in preference,
We don't do that with any other.
don't we?
You not leave your
No?
ballot.
Okay, stand to be corrected.
So that's straight from the policy, which is our endorsed policy.
Yeah, I guess there's an interpretation on that. Thank you, Alderman Riddler. Yes,
One
thank you.
person,
You circle.
circle one person, no numbers, just
Put it across the way.
No numbers.
no numbers.
And if we get 9 votes for one person,
And 1 vote for another person, then they will be the top 2 votes.
okay,
Question.
thank you.
Before we vote, as you know, I raised a query with the general manager in relation to the detailed statement, which he responded to say that proxies were for the recruitment period, despite the selection committee on the sheet I got saying it's only for 2 years post the election.
Yes,
And
that's
he's
been,
clarified that now to say that it's 4 years. But that first one for 2 years, I think, was developed in November 28. And then, not 28, 22. And then the one he's brought out is no one the other way around.
can I just interrupt you? It's my bad. I should have introduced this, and got a mover and a seconder. So do I have someone to
So
move?
moved.
Thank you. We have Alderman Slade and we have the deputy. Thank you. Right, so we have the substantive motion moved, and now would you like to continue your conversation, Alderman Riddler?
Yeah, well, he says that on the council meeting of 20th November 22, which was straight after the election, it says for committee information that the term is for the duration of the council term. Then in September 23, a year later, it reverts to 2 years.
Yes, I think the CEO has explained that with an email to us all,
It doesn't
clarifying.
explain it very well, especially when the second
Well,
one,
it's been standard procedure, but,
when the second document is later, it reverts it from 4 to 2 years,
yeah,
which
it's a
is-
clerical error.
which is the right one.
The one that was explained today by email.
Say that again?
The one that was explained by email to all of us from the
Well,
CEO.
it's a bit confusing, man.
Thank you, Alderman Cockshott.
The point what is happening is the two proxies will just run for the remainder of the CEO recruitment process, and that'll be done. So once the CEO is recruited and we've gone through the process, there will be no proxies. The people who are on the CEO's performance committee now, as the current committee, they'll continue through to 2026 September.
I understand that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Alderman Cockshott. Well said.
Well, that raises the next question, Mayor, because I was under the impression from our workshop, we're going to add 2 extra people to the 3 that's already on the selection process. They weren't to be proxies.
No, I don't think that.
No, we can't do that
And
without
we
an
didn't make a
amendment.
decision overall about a council workshop, which we're not allowed to.
Thank you. Do you want to continue that because I've got Alderman Alderton asking a question?
Well, it's just.
It had to be an amendment.
Well, I believe now we should put 2 extra people as members of the selection committee for the period. There shouldn't be proxies. There should be just 2 extra people, so we've got 5 on there.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Alderton.
Okay, so a question, thank you, Mayor. My question is in regards to once this is done and dusted and we no longer require these 2 proxies. So under the normal functioning process of the CEO's Performance Review Committee, what happens if you have 2 of the members off for long-term leave of absence or something? You don't have any proxies to fill in that cases. Is that the situation we're in?
Can I ask that of Emma?
Yeah, that's correct. But I guess the CEO committee doesn't meet like fortnightly or monthly.
No, I realise that.
You know, so it's quite flexible as well. We do have the schedule over 12 months of the performance review cycle. But if there's extended periods of time of absence, then we can potentially work around that, or if it's significant enough, then it would probably need to be a resignation from the position and then a new appointment go in, but you would have to deal with that on a case-by-case basis.
So I tend to agree with Alderman Riddler. I can see some value in maybe a proxy. If you get an example like we had where we had 2 aldermen off long-term from council that passed away due to health issues. Myself took 8 weeks leave of absence for a medical matter. So if you get into that situation with a member of a committee, 2 months is a long time to delay, to reviewing a CEO's position, potentially.
That's right. Mayor, the purpose of this report today is just around the recruitment process and just around the increased risk of conflict of interest that's arisen during this 3-4 month process.
Yeah, I understand that.
It's separate to those other risks that can exist in the normal day-to-day operation of the performance review committee.
Yes, thank you. Director, would you like to add anything?
I was just going to say, you do actually have a motion for you to actually conduct the process and then vote on, and then there would be an opportunity if you wish to produce a further motion that then voted on. But at the moment, we actually have a motion that's been seconded before council that we actually need to now undertake. And
Thank you, Alderman
Can I
Cockshott.
actually move an amendment to the motion?
Can we just hear Alderman Cockshott first, please?
In the last 2 years, it hasn't been an issue in terms of the council with the CEO's Performance Review Committee. In terms of proxies and getting people, given it's once or twice meeting, we're not talking GPA most monthly. And that gives more flexibility too, right? So it allows more people around the table who might be able to participate.
Thank you.
Mayor, before we vote, is it possible to move an amendment to that motion?
I believe so. Is that correct, Tracy?
if you want to amend, so then and to
Discuss, yes,
Yeah.
okay.
So,
So what's the amendment, please?
happy with the first, number 1. Number 2, delete the words, gee, that was quick, who did that?
I've taken the liberty of drafting a second one that might be in line with what
That's
you're
fine.
after.
That's fine. And that's what I want.
You need, yeah, so you need a second.
Gee, thank you.
So we have an amendment before us. I'll give everyone time to read it. And then I need a seconder for the amendment.
So just
Thank you,
a question
Alderman
here,
Marks.
Alderman.
Yes?
So that's saying that the two proxies stay for that period of time?
No.
They become permanent members?
Yes.
Just for the period of the retreat.
Okay, so we have a seconder. I'm going to put that to the vote. All vote in debate. Oh, yes, any debate. Sorry, thank you, Deputy. Any further debate on this amendment? Thank you, Councillor Kendall.
Yeah, so my hesitation with this, as much as, I mean, it's probably a conflict of interest because I would love to be on the committee without just being a proxy in case someone gets sick. But my hesitation with having two new substantive additional positions is just the practicality of being in an interview situation with a huge desk of people. You know, it's very intimidating, and I don't think it would be recommended by the recruitment agents, although maybe someone else can provide some feedback on that, or whether it's like what impact it will have having those two extra people involved in the process.
Oh, sorry, Alderman Cockshott.
I agree with Councillor Kendall. I don't think we need to make an enormous committee to every alderman council. Now, I think the size of the committee is correct. It allows them to do their due diligence with the officers, to come back, because at the end of the day, a recommendation is going to come back to the whole council, and we'll have workshops internally as to how that process is tracking, and everyone will come along on the journey that way. So I don't think we need to increase the overall size of the committee. I'm quite happy with the current state and having the two proxies.
Yes, again, succinctly put, thank you. Alderman Alston.
I also share the same views as Alderman Cockshott here. My concern more so was we maybe had the opportunity here to have the proxies carry on in a proxy role after this process, in case we had an issue with availability down the track.
That's not the amendment before us.
I know. So
yep.
I'm stating why I support.
Okay, so.
Through you, and with this second point now, it comes to the people who nominate themselves, they nominate themselves to be a proxy, and now all of a sudden they're on the board.
Well done, yes.
Thing, so I don't see how that's fair on the actual people who have nominated themselves for that position to begin with.
Yes, thank you. Does everyone feel like they've had an opportunity to contribute? Thank you, Deputy.
Comment of, I think it makes the process larger than what it needs to be. And we're here to, it will present through, it comes back to council. I'm comfortable with the first amendment, not this amendment.
And just to reiterate Alderman Cockshott's point of view, this is not to make a final decision. There will probably be a recommendation coming back from the committee after it's been through a rigorous process, and then it'll be workshopped between every alderman and elected official. And the decision will be made by the whole council, not the committee. Okay, it's just literally to streamline the process. Thank you, Alderman Riddler.
Just to close, most of our other committees are 5 or more, so mostly up to 5, so I can't see.
Can you tell me which ones?
Sorry?
Which ones are 5?
Well, orders, perhaps a good example. That's
of elected officials?
Well, there's only two is on there, plus 2 external.
But that's governed by
an act.
Yeah, an act, yes.
Yeah,
so most of our committees are 3.
About the GPO.
That's 5. That's obviously
yeah, what I'm
a
getting at is
statutory
I don't
one.
see it's going to make any difference. Previous selection committees for general manager have always been 5.
So, point of order.
Thank you.
It could be, I guess we're at the end of the debate. Are we moving forward with that?
Yes, thank you. And I think Alderman Stringer made a good point. The people who have nominated signed up to be proxies, not to be substantive members. So I'm going to put this motion, this amendment, I beg your pardon. So all those in favour, please raise your hand. Okay, so we have Alderman Marks and Alderman Riddler. Those against? So we have Alderman Stringer, Councillor Kendall, the Deputy Mayor, the Mayor, Alderman King, Alderman Slade, Alderman Cockshott and Alderman Alderton. So that amendment is lost. We go back to the substantive motion, which we already have moved and seconded. So can we go back to debating that, or are you happy to go to the vote?
Mayor, if that's going to be the case, I'll withdraw my proxy nomination.
Okay, and I hope we're not counting votes in a waste of time. Thank you, Alderman Alderton.
Can I suggest now that we are issuing new ballot papers?
Yes, okay. Please give back these to,
Yeah, I'll get rid of
Emma.
I'll do that, Emma. I'll get those.
Oh, that's rubbish. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, get rid of the, no, read through it, thank you. Back in a minute.
No worries.
So remind viewers online that we're about to conduct a ballot in accordance with the procedure in part 3 of the committee nominations and appointments policy to determine the 2 members elect for the Chief Executive Performance Review Committee and elect members elect to the 2 proxy positions on the Chief Executive Officer's Performance Review Committee for the duration of the CEO recruitment process. And we're just getting some fresh papers printed. So again, we're just circling one person. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, no.
Thank you.
Everyone have one?
Thank you.
Right, Mel and I will go count and then.
Yes, so we'll wait the scrutineer's report. Thank you. I'm hoping they won't be too long. Don't want to have too many things open at one time.
Next one's pretty straightforward.
I hope so. You need to sum up after this slide.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Very large, of course, but we need to sum up.
There you go, that was pretty quick. Right, I have to announce that Councillor Kendall and Alderman Cockshott have been elected to the 2 proxy positions. So congratulations, thank you, and thank you, Alderman Alderton, for your expression of interest. Now I'll go to Alderman Slater to sum up.
Yeah, well, obviously, Mayor, I need to conduct a ballot in accordance with the procedure in part 3 of the committee nominations to turn the 2 members elected for the Chief Executive Officer. They need to be mentioned now.
It's being typed in as we speak.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see that. Sorry. Right. And secondly, yes, we elect Councillor Kendall and Norman Buckchuck to the 2 proxy positions on the Chief Executive Officer's Performance Review. For duration, I'm happy how that is, Mayor. I've got nothing further to say. I support the recommendation.
Thank you. And it might have looked a little chaotic and not as tidy as we usually like here at Council, but I thank everyone for participating and your contribution to the debate. I'm now going to put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. And it is carried unanimously. Thank you. Now the next one is Item 12, and it's open council workshops. Thank you, Alderman Cockshut is choosing to move it. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Alderman Slade. And this is about the continuation of the open workshops, and it's based on the proposed features of an ongoing workshop sessions as set out in this report. So Alderman Cockshut, would you like to lead the debate?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Obviously we ran the trial in the second half of last year, and it was received overly well by the community, both from having online and in person open workshops. So it's good to see that that went well. There was appetite. Obviously we're trying to be as transparent as possible. I thought the range of topics was good, which was well received. So happy to see it continue along with our normal council workshop, where we can have some elected member and officer level discussions before we get to settings like these. I think it's a good outcome for all parties involved in the community.
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. Just a question, I guess for me, and along the lines of the question that has been asked by the member of the public in terms of who decides the topics for the open workshops, like, is there a process behind them? I know that we had one from the first one, which was fantastic, and that was quite timely. But I guess, is there a process of who decides the topics, or is it just an operational matter?
Throw to the CEO.
I guess it's probably fair to say there's not a really clear process. It generally is some of the topics come forward as a result of might come from Mayor CEO. They might involve, excuse me, for example, approaches by someone like a Wellington Park Trust or a Do a History program, wanting to talk to council, and it is a suitable topic for general public interest. Other times there might be, the mayor's also involved in suggesting topics as well. So, the mayor is a convener of the council workshop. So it's a little bit, there's no really clear and precise process. It's, I think it's fair to say, we could sit down and review the topics and look at where they come from, but a lot of them probably have come from approaches to staff or matters that we brought forward. An example, I guess, well, we can look at the list and the list is in attachments.
Whilst we're looking for that, I think it's fair to say we try and keep things as relevant and topical and as interesting as possible. But we want to be a really wide range of topics so that the public understand the sort of information we usually get in a workshop without anything of a confidential nature.
Yes. That's okay.
Thank you. We've had various subjects and the feedback is that they've all been good.
Yeah.
Would you like to add anything else?
Just a comment. Yeah, thank you. And I believe the open workshops have been a success, and I think it's really when the right topics being presented, that's where it's been really well received by the public. So I think just making sure we have relevant topics that are beneficial for us all, as well as the community as a whole. I think it's really important. So having that around that, and also perhaps when sometimes we have an open workshop, perhaps having a closed workshop if required on that same day. But I think we haven't done that in the trial, and I think that would still work if there was relevant material for us to understand. So otherwise, I think that's been a full success. It's been great.
Thank you.
Mayor, I support the recommendation. It's like anything, it's early days for the workshops to be in an open capacity. Like anybody else, we always check the Google. I did a bit of Googling and whatever, and there's no doubt the councils that really do this really well are the ones that want to be the facilitators in the community rather than just perhaps show some works within the community, if that makes sense. So what they do is that they ask the public as well as interesting members of the community. It might be somebody from the transport sector, might be somebody, say, from the health department, whatever. And that way there, they might be talking about a subject that's really touches the heart of a lot of people, rather than perhaps just a local government one. So it comes back down, and there's plenty of research. I'm more than willing to give them to the 3 or 4 councils that I've picked out that have done this very, very well. And again, I always like to see us as the facilitator. I totally support it, and looking forward, going forward, man, in the next 6 months, having more interesting people.
Can I just ask you, Alderman Slade, were any of those Tasmanian councils?
No.
No, because to my understanding, I think we're the first to hold
Yeah.
open workshops. That Hobart is now about to follow with
No.
open committees.
You won't, we're doing well state-wise.
Got to lead the way. Thank you, Alderman Alderton.
Thank you, Mayor. I too support the continuation of open workshops, and I thank our ratepayer tonight who brought the question up at public question time in regards to having the public have a little bit greater involvement in the subject matter. I think we also, as a council, would probably be beneficial if we went out and approached organisations that we work with collaboratively as a council to make the community better, and invite some of them along to do a presentation at the open council meetings as well.
Yes, I think a two-way conversation would be wonderful. Anyone else like to make a contribution? Councillor Kendall?
Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Terry. Mayor, just to echo what's already been said, I think we should definitely ask the public, but also the customer service team. I'm sure would have quite a few recommendations as well, what people want to know about the council. I found them really interesting, but also the recordings I found as a really useful resource, which I've reflected back on or refer other people to. So I think it's great, and I think it increases the interest and understanding in council, and possibly increases the field of people who want to run for council in the future. So it's a great thing.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'm just hoping too that increases trust in the council, that we are trying to be a contemporary council and a leader in fields such as environment, transport, housing, and other things that affect the demographics, not only of our city, but I think of Greater Hobart. So, and we should be more transparent wherever we possibly can be. So I'm going to take this back to Alderman Cockshut to close debate.
All good, thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. On that note, I will put the recommendation. All those of that opinion or in that agree, thank you. Raise your hands. Very well trained. It's carried unanimously.
It's absolute majority in discussions reflecting the change in the budget. That was in the.
Sorry, could you explain that to me again?
Well, if there's a change to the budget figures, we have to.
You're on the wrong button.
You're on the wrong item.
No, you're not. It's not really going to affect the budget.
It's the next one.
The one,
You're in the wrong item.
we've got the CFO's figures to say that.
That is not this subject. We're talking about the open workshops.
Oh.
Yep, no worries, no worries. So that was a unanimous vote, thank you. Now, item 13, this is where you might be interested, Alderman Riddler, is the 2024-25 mid-year budget review. Can I have someone move this? Thank you, Alderman Alderton, and a seconder, please. Thank you, Deputy. And would you like to lead the debate, Alderman Alderton?
Certainly. Firstly, I'd like to thank Michael for his excellent presentation at the workshop, and the great work that he's put into this mid-year budget review. It's given all us aldermen a very clear and broad understanding of where we're sitting at, and we have quite a bit of good news here, to be honest. We, for example, we had an original budget of an operating income of 77,714,890, but we ended up revising that budget to 78,772, which provided us with a operation surplus of $364,000 instead of a loss of $227,148, which was an improvement of $591,743 on our operating budget. So well done to our council staff.
Thank you. Anyone else like to make a contribution? Thank you, Deputy.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. Yeah, it's great that we are constantly overseeing the financial budget, and our teams looking into ways of managing it better, being able to do a range of things. So just well done to the team. And in fact, everyone around the teams in council, because we're all one team in that sense. So everyone's doing an amazing job and happy to approve the year budget change.
Yes, I'd like to support your words there and say that the financial reporting we've been getting is very well explained in simple language, easy for everyone to follow, and it is increasing. It is pleasing to see an increase in funds. We are a not-for-profit, and there's always something to spend it on. It's not like we've just suddenly found a pot of gold, but we have been lucky, and I think we could ask the CFO that we are now charging rates against the MyState Arena. Thank you, and that's led to a significant improvement of funds. Anyone else like to make a contribution? No, I'm going to put.
Thank you. I'd like to thank staff. So it feels like the best state it's been in since I've been council. It's a long time now. And the reporting is wonderful, clear, precise. Average person can understand. So thank you.
Yes, excellent work. So I'm putting this recommendation. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Again, carried unanimously. Thank you. Now, item 14 is the quarterly report for quarter 2 of the year 24-25. And we have a recommendation to receive and note the council's quarterly report and quarterly annual plan progress report for the quarter ending 31st of December 2024. Do I have someone to move this motion? Thank you, Councillor Kendall. Thank you, Alderman King. And would you like to lead debate, Councillor Kendall?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, encouraging the public to have a look at this report. Lots of interesting updates. A few sad mentions of the loss of Harry and Jan in there. And on a more positive note, we turned 60 as a municipality. No, as a city. We turned 100 as a municipality. And we officially got the handover of Chalosa Park from Taswater. It's an exciting day and lovely to get behind the fences. I'm not sure if the fences are still up there or if it's still protecting the little native seedlings. Okay, almost there. Yeah, really beautiful space up there at Chalosa Park. And yeah, the final one of the 10 federally funded play spaces that have been rolled out, and the last one's at Austin's Ferry at Rosneath, which is a really great one. Encourage everyone to check it out. So pretty positive and happy to open it for debate.
Thank you. Anyone else like to make a contribution? No? In that case, I'm going to put the I'll go back to Councillor Kendall. Do you want to sum up? No. I put the recommendation. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Thank you. Carried unanimously. Item 15 is the financial performance report to the 31st of January 2025. Can I have someone move the receiving and noting of this financial report? Thank you, Alderman Marks. Do I have a second, please? Thank you, Alderman Cocksharp. Alderman Marks, would you like to lead debate?
No.
Just opening for discussion. Thank you. Do we have any discussion? So how happy we are with it. Oh,
And all I was going to say, Mayor, was very similar to what we've already said. Like, it's good to see the Council of Finance in a good state, in line with our long-term financial management plan. So kudos to the whole team involved and Michael for doing a really good job.
thank you, Alderman Cocksharp. I'd just like to sum up too that this has been the result of a lot of hard work, and it's so good to see this council delivering really positive outcomes for our community that we can afford. And it's a big turnaround from where this council has been, and I'm really happy with everyone's contribution. So thank you. I'm going to put this recommendation. So all those in favour, please raise your hand. And yes, enthusiastically, it is a unanimous vote. Item 16 is consideration of listing the Glenorchy Pool as a local heritage place, and the recommendations are there in the agenda. Can I have someone to move this motion, please? Anyone? Thank you, Deputy. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Kendall. Deputy, would you like to lead debate?
Thank you, Mayor. Through you. This has come about in terms of the heritage listing of the Glenorchy City War Memorial Pool. While the advice doesn't necessarily support the heritage listing, it doesn't take away from the significant history that our pool has, and it's certainly something that within our city, it's building the funding of the memories that have been made over that time, and I'd hope at some stage our history is presented in a way, in some sort of way down there. So otherwise, opening up to debate.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on this? Thank you, Alderman Alderton.
More a question and discussion there. Just maybe the CEO can answer this. What impact does the language or the wording local heritage listing, does it have any ramifications or impacts on what we can or cannot do on the site as a council?
Through there, so there are different levels of heritage listing, and there are effectively two levels of listing in Tasmania. You can either have a listing on the Tasmanian Heritage Register, which is state level listing. That's already been rejected by the Tasmanian Heritage Commission Council. The local level listing is really a listing at local government level, and it's a different. It's a different level of significance, a lower level of significance to the state listing that was rejected. And in terms of this particular recommended listing, it's a little bit different to what normally most heritage properties are listed for their bricks and mortar. The significance that's identified out of this report is around the meaning of the place to the community. And I think the general thrust of this report is saying we believe as a council, because this is a council-owned property, we believe that the kinds of measures that you might take to recognise that level of significance to the community can be done by council outside of the formal heritage listing process. So that's I guess the position that the report is recommending from an officer point of view.
Thank you for the explanation, CEO.
Any further discussion? Alderman Marks.
Yes, through you, Mayor, I just want to ask the CEO, does that block us? If we say yes there, it's listing the pool, does that block us from redeveloping the pool or doing anything to the site?
Through you, Mayor. So the recommendation here is not to list the pool formally. It's simply to recognise the level of significance of the pool, which is a fairly low level of overall significance that's not tied to the bricks and mortar. It's recognising those community connections in terms of the memorial status of the pool and the association with the historical development pattern of Glenorchy, and the social significance to the community. And what we're saying, I guess, is that we can protect those things without needing to formally list it in the planning scheme. We can deal with that outside of that process. Either way, it wouldn't affect the current project to repair and reopen the pool, because that we're already moving on with that. And as the Mayor mentioned before, that's already out for tender, and we'll know in March who the successful tenderer is for that project. So that'll just move on. If we were to formally seek listing of the facility, we're talking about having to go through a planning scheme amendment to put it in the planning scheme. We're not suggesting that, because we do believe that to do that would potentially open some grey areas in terms of the prospects of the redevelopment process. Having said that, because it is a council-owned, publicly owned facility, we believe that we can deliver on those issues of significance without formally having to list it.
Thank you. Thank you, Alderman Riddler.
Yes, Mayor. Can I just ask a question, gentlemen? This building here is heritage listed, this one.
I don't believe so.
Architectural significance, is that right?
Through you,
A
Mayor.
lot of shaking of the head.
Through you, Mayor. I don't believe so.
Okay.
There are elements. I believe the War Memorial is listed. I believe the pepper tree is listed, and I think we've more recently added a place of archaeological significance in terms of the Jolly Miller Inn, which is roughly underneath the War Memorial and near the corner of the bus mall there.
Well, thanks for answering that. Well, Mayor, this building and the War Memorial Pool was 1964, I think it was built when the city was founded as a city. And the pool in particular, it's a war memorial thing, and I think it's in relation to that. And of course, post-war, the federal government of the day gave funds to all councils across Australia to build halls or other infrastructure in memory of the war, the servicemen that served and died in the Second World War. I'm deadly against listing it as a heritage site. I appreciate there may be some significant aspects of it, but like Alderman Marks, I don't want to restrict us, any council in the future, if we need to redevelop that site, bearing in mind that we have a sports precinct basically right there and a heritage museum, and I don't want our property to be restricted because of a heritage listing.
Point of order, this is just not being listed as a heritage site, isn't it? So I mean, the point of...
I'm against listing.
Okay, order. If I could just say that we did have conversations with the RSL and they say it is not recognised as a war memorial under their standards, where people march from the building and recognise it as a place of significance. We, however, as a council, I think heard loud and clear that the community are very much in love with our Glenorchy War Memorial Pool. But you're right, Alderman Riddler, it comes with restrictions. And we are looking to the future because we believe the biggest and highest purpose of that site is to provide recreational facilities for future generations. And I'm certain that's what the people who went to war fought for on our behalf. And so, yeah, I think this recommendation, as far as I'm concerned, makes a lot of sense. We have discussed having a memorial pictorial history, maybe on boards or something to that effect that are in there. But so we will still interpret the history of that pool and the significant contribution made by the community to get us a pool. And I make the point again, as you said rightly, that's a 1960s asset, and we really need the community to be engaged so that we are building an asset for future generations. Because currently, the most modern pool we have anywhere in the Southern Hemisphere is the Doon Kennedy, built in 1996. And whilst that and Clarence have had a few tart-ups, that's not enough to keep cement pools going, as we all learnt the hard way.
Just a correction, I don't think it's the Southern Hemisphere.
Do you have a better pool?
In the Southern Hemisphere.
Oh, not the Southern Hemisphere, southern part of Tasmania,
Yes,
you're
yes.
correct,
Sorry,
thank you.
I don't want to-
Yeah, very good point of order.
Just
Yeah.
on, we don't
Getting a
upset.
bit
Friends on the main.
embellishing the truth.
Yes, don't upset our friends on the
No, we're not discussing that one, thank you. So has anyone else got a contribution? Oh, sorry.
Sorry, just one follow-up question. So, point through the recommendation. So this listing, if we support this tonight, does that guarantee and protect the site as remaining as used as a recreational facility only? Does it actually lock it in, or are we just giving a commitment to ensure we will, or does the actual listing lock it into being a recreational facility site?
Commits to ensuring the site remains a recreational facility which supports active, healthy and connected lifestyles, and as a memorial marking out communities, I think that's our community's contribution born out of respect for the nation's wartime efforts and individual sacrifices. And thank you to the CEO's champion bit.
Through Mayor, I just want to emphasise again, this report is not recommending the listing of the pool site.
The site is the land though, CEO. So does it protect the land as being used for as a recreational facility only moving forward?
Through Mayor, it's not a listing per se, but it's item 3 of the recommendation is, if adopted by council, making a clear statement by council that it commits to the site remaining a recreational facility to support active, healthy and connected lifestyles, and as a memorial marking our community's contribution born out of respect for the nation's wartime efforts and individual sacrifices. So it's a statement, clear statement of intent by council that it wishes the site to remain recreational in future and be recognised as a memorial. But I just want to be really clear that it's not that this, whilst this report is recognising that there is a low level of local heritage significance not attached to the bricks and mortar, that it's not recommending that that be formalised in the planning scheme. It's simply saying we're going to recognise it, but recognise it outside of the planning scheme because we have the power as a council to make sure, if you like, that we take the vibe forward into any future redevelopment and honour that local significance without formal listing.
CEO, can I just ask that the items 4 and 5 be put up on the screen? Thank you. So this is about us reaffirming our commitment to the future of the pool, exploring options for redevelopment, long-term sustainability, and continuing transparent communication and community engagement to ensure the pool remains valued asset for Glenorchy residents. So on our watch, that is our commitment. And yeah, thank you. And also, I think we should remember that we've had legal advice on this. So I'm assuming everyone's read the report. Anyone like to make another contribution, or shall we go? Oh, thank you, Councillor Kendall.
Yeah, just to sum up, I'm pretty happy with this resolution. I mean, I definitely respect the intent of the investigation, and as you know, the community looked for tools that they could use to protect the pool, and you know how important it was to them, and we all heard that loud and clear. And I think this is saying that the heritage listing isn't the tool, but the people power is the tool, and we still need to rely on that people power to get the funding for the next round. So stay on board.
Thank you. So before we go back to the Deputy Mayor, can I just check? It's my understanding that the Clarence War was a war memorial pool, and now it's just called the Clarence Pool.
Through Mayor, I did send a Wikipedia to someone at some stage. That's my only source of knowledge on Glenorchy. The Clarence Pool, apart from refusing to transition to the big pool in about 1968.
Thank you. We do have our communication
now called the Clarence Aquatic Centre YMCA.
Yes, and the Doing Kennedy was a war memorial pool.
That's the name on the front of it.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, that's just a distraction. I'm going back to the Deputy Mayor. Thank you. In that case, I'm going to put this to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Carried unanimously. Thank you. And thank you for the debate.
Clarify there, it was called previously the Clarence War Memorial in 1963.
Yes, so it's getting old too. Thank you. I know.
Oh, you got a grant too, no, did.
Thank you. So item 17 is the quarterly committees update, which is really interesting reading. Thank you very much, Alderman King. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Deputy. And Alderman King, would you like to lead the way?
Well, yeah, we received an update on the activities of council committees for the quarter 2. I'd like to also mention that the emergency management committee met last week as well, and there are a lot of good things happening. Most people don't know what happens. It might be a good idea to have a workshop for the community's information as well as other aldermen. It's what actually goes on in these committee meetings. Because, I mean, last week we discussed for our next meeting potentially having training on some sort of disaster, whether it be not just fire or flood, but what if there was a gas leak, a major gas leak, or what if there was a terrorist situation? How would we handle it? What is the council's responsibility? And we have fire, police, ambulance, SES, just about everyone you can name in there, and it is an interesting meeting as a rule. And we've also discussed refuge sites for whatever the disaster might be in the local area, not the state government. One state government go to my state, but if we have to provide refuge ourselves, then we've got the Moona Arts Centre, the Glenorchy Community Centre, and potentially Moona Sports Centre as an overflow. So there are lots of things that happen, and to me that would make a good workshop for the community to know, what do we do? What would we do if there was an emergency or a disaster? Who's involved? Who's there to sort of pull us out of a pickle?
And the pets.
And the what's that?
And the pets.
And the pets, yeah. We what happens with pets? What has happened in pets in the past as well, like when we had the showground and things like that available. What is available for that sort of thing, so people know where to go in advance. Because it's going to happen one day.
Yes.
I don't mean doomsday, but
if but when.
Yes.
Thank you. Anyone else like to contribute? Thank you, Alderman Marks.
Yeah, I filled in as a proxy on the audit panel, and I found that very interesting, and that's a really good thing for all the other aldermen to learn what goes on in those committees And as Stephen said, we should have workshops on what the committee's active functions are.
Yes, thank you. I think that's a good idea too. Anyone else like to contribute? No, thank you. I'd just like to pick out a couple of highlights because our Jobs Hub, which is funded by the state government, did place 94 people in October and had 83 people register. So that's a great outcome for people connected to local jobs. And also, as I said earlier in the meeting, we have been working so hard to deal with crime in the city. And we are stating that the police reported a 37% drop in shoplifting in Moona compared to the same quarter last year. That is significant, and I really like to thank the police and our youth teams and anyone connected to this subject, because it's vital that everyone feels safe in our city. We have a lot of things in this agenda item, and I really would recommend people have a look at it because this is the great work your council is doing. Okay, and I think that was Alderman King. Would you like to sum up?
No, I just appreciate the support, and I just, again, think it will make a great open workshop topic for any of those committees, really, so people understand what goes on.
Yes. So the recommendation is to receive and note. Everyone in agreement, please raise your hand. Thank you. Carried unanimously. Now, item 18 is the council submission on local government priority reform program 2024-26, and it is a recommendation to make a submission. So who'd like to move this one? Alderman Marks, thank you. And can I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Kendall. Alderman Marks, would you like to make a no? Thank you. Just open up the debate. Who else would like to make a contribution? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you. It's positive to see some recommendations and the specific actions being implemented and thought through. While it does only represent, sort of half the recommendations of the reform, the intent and I guess the aim is to improve our sector, and I think that's a positive thing moving forward. So while there is still a lot of things to do, I think this is a good start, and I support the submission.
Thank you. Anyone else like to contribute? Thank you, Alderman Riddler.
Yes, Mayor, I think the request from the government was they wanted a response by the 21st of March.
Sorry, could you repeat that, please?
The government wanted, local government was a response by the 21st of March. As you won't have another council meeting until after that, I just wondered whether we get the opportunity maybe just to see what we're drafting up in a workshop.
We did have a workshop on this subject.
Well, no, just as part of a workshop, because
you meaning an open workshop?
I don't see why not.
Yes. Well, I'd like to point out that our officers gave us an extensive briefing on this subject, and the report was really thorough. So you want another workshop? You don't really have the time.
Maybe final submission if we could have a look at that.
Through you there. So the situation was that we, as Alderman Riddler said, the government put a deadline on it. I can't remember its precise date in March, but
21st.
We don't quite make the March council meeting with that deadline, and we actually formally requested an extension of our submission date to enable us to get it to the March council meeting. That was refused. So we then went back and reworked our timeline, made sure that there was a council workshop, an extensive council workshop on this very topic. And then as a result of the feedback out of that workshop, this report is coming forward with recommending a submission on council's behalf, being the submission to the government.
Thank you. I think local government is reform weary, but having said that, there's been no significant reform for a very, very long time. So we do support the government, making some progress. As disappointed as we are with fact that they haven't honoured their commitment to 37 out of the 38, I think it was, recommendations. There's a couple in there that we have a little bit of disagreement with, but I find it interesting that the reform process is, one, lifting the standards of professionalism, conduct and integrity. No one could argue with that. Two, driving a high-performing, transparent and accountable sector. Again, not an argument. Improving local democracy and representation. And four is supporting council financial sustainability. And five is supporting council and community-led structural reform. And I just think if you took that mirror back to the state government and held them as accountable as they're trying to hold us, that would be a very interesting discussion. But anyway, anyone else like to make any contribution to this? Thank you, Councillor Kendall.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciated the amount of detail that we got in that workshop, and the table comparing what the recommendations from the local government review were and which ones had dropped off the list, which is just really disappointing, and also acknowledging the amount of office time that's been put in throughout this whole process and give feedback, and then it feels like it's often not listened to. But it's really important. It's important as it ever was to make improvements to local government. It's something I saw as soon as I came in to council, that there's real scope for improvement in all the things that they're saying are priorities, like driving high performance, transparency, accountability. But the frustration here is that all of those mechanisms that they put in there to actually deliver those changes have been stripped out from my perspective. There's things that are really good in here still, but I just wish it had a bit more muscle, and I think that's what our submission says. So I'm really happy with the strength of it. I'm really happy to see the meeting provisions becoming more flexible as being included, and that'll be rolled out, I'm sure. So that'll help with inclusivity on people who can run for council, people with disabilities, people with young families. So that's really a positive move that I'm happy with. I'm sure that will be seen through to the end, but I wish there was just a bit more substance in the mechanisms that they're going to install to make these things happen. So love our report, and thanks again to the hard work done by our management team.
Thank you. Anyone else? Again, there's a lot of obligation on councils, and some of our 29 councils are quite small, so this compliance will add a significant burden to their already high workload. But I think we should all be aiming for best practice and improvements where we can make them. So I'm supportive of this, and I'm going to put it to the floor that the recommendation be accepted. All the same opinion, can you please raise your hands? Thank you. Again, carried unanimously, and thanks again to the staff for making that quite clear. Item 19 is a policy update, investment of short-term funds. Thank you. Do I have a mover for this? Thank you, Alderman Slade. A seconder, please. Thank you, Alderman King. Alderman Slade, would you like to lead?
I think it's nice that, not nice, it's good governance as you go through and check and make sure that all our policies are in good nick and reflective of what we're doing, especially financial ones. The only question I was going to ask is, short us around the table, people on the street, the government gives you the $250,000 safety blanket for your deposits, right? Does companies or you shaking your head say no? So how do we cover ourselves with that, from a risk management point of view? Is that through insurance or?
Yeah, so what we do is we have a look and we understand what the different ratings are for the deposit institutions that we are depositing money with.
Yep.
So as part of the current policy we do have in place, we would only select, for example, the deposit institution listed by APRA and also one of the large deposit institutions with a credit rating greater than that.
Right, I gotcha. I've got another question. Do we have any time, because deposits are going up quite well here actually. It's good that I like that level you have, that you don't go beyond 15 million, the same house. Do we get advice off anybody at any time? Do we? Talk to you about how some of these organisations are tracking in relation to their ratings or whatever. I know they are major banks, and things seem to be going pretty well. They always make a lot of profits. Have you got access to that documentation? Okay, I'm happy with that, thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? No, I too am comforted by the policy, and it's great because for members of the public, sometimes we're given significant amounts of cash that may not be spent for some time. So we're still making that money, we're maximising its return so that we can then in turn reinvest it back into the community. So it'd be kind of wasteful if we didn't have a policy such as this with the vigour that's been applied to it. So I'm going to move back to the movers.
I'm happy, Mayor, but,
No?
yep.
Thank you. Anyone want a final discussion point? No, thank you. I'm going to put the recommendation. All those in favour, raise your hand. Thank you very much. Carried unanimously. And now item 20 is the procurement report, which is another recommendation to note and note. So would someone like to move this one?
I'll move it, Mayor, it's a general.
Thank you.
These come up and we as a council got to obviously note those and whatever, and that's what I'm doing, and I'm happy that it's been carried out in a proper way by our staff, and I support the recommendation.
Thank you. And in the meantime, the deputy put his hand up to be a seconder. So would you like to make any more contributions? No. Anyone else from the floor? No. Thank you. Well, I think it's wonderful that we're always reviewing our processes and looking at the way we do things. So it's good to see that the hosting and maintenance of the asset management dashboard services agreement is continued. So that's good. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Thank you. It's carried unanimously. Now, item 21, notices on motion, questions on notice or without notice. Thank you, Deputy.
I just have a quick question without notice. Just regarding the timeline for Lotus Park to be opened for the general public. It's sitting there growing quite nicely, but I guess some expectation of for public use.
Thank you. Thank you to the Deputy CEO.
Thank you, Mayor. The park is actually available to the public now. So there are gates that are cut into the fence. The fence will have to remain up for a little while yet because the vegetation, all the plantings, there's thousands of plantings that have to be maintained for a 12-month period by the people who have planted them. And we're trying to keep wildlife, the wildlife off them because the wallabies are getting in and eating them down. So because they've got a maintenance period of 12 months, that fence will stay up during that time. But the gates are, there's 3 or 4 access gates, and they are available. The public can use it now, and some of them are. We are planning on having a tour on, I think it's the 5th of March, for a council workshop, and that's one of the sites we intend to take the elected members to, and then after that we're going to publicise it a bit more and say it's open, but the use of the gates will remain there for a while yet.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. That's great. It's great news. So if I go through the gates, I'm not going to be like in trouble.
No, you'll be welcome. Just like the automatic sprinkler system stuff.
Yeah, okay, all right, that's probably the only issue. All right, no worries.
And I think we'd all agree that it's been a fabulous outcome. We were facing a dirty big ditch, and I think working with Taswater, we've come to result in a really significantly increased park for recreation and families to enjoy for decades to come. So
all of southern Tasmania.
Sorry?
For all of southern Tasmania.
Yes.
All the southern hemisphere even.
Yes, that's right. Everyone's welcome to Lotus Park, and we hope to see you there. Thank you very much. So any other questions without notice? Thank you, Alderman.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I have a couple of questions around our Facebook page. I was contacted by 3 members of the public, and they asked me if I put a question to council, and probably they're unable to come to public question times. I said I'd put the question up during questions on notice. So the first question relates, well, all these questions relate to our Facebook page and the e-petition supporting
gambling.
Yeah,
Against
gambling, against and supporting the card. Now, one question was, they asked why the Facebook page or why council chose to allow commenting first on the page, and then commenting was switched off, and a number of comments were removed from the page. So I'm quite sure council's got a very good valid reason for doing that, but I was just asked that question, wondering if that one could be answered, please, for the benefit of people watching on
Thank you.
social media.
Thank you.
Through there, our Facebook page is highly very well moderated, and it's got very strict guidelines. So if anybody breaks those guidelines, their comments are removed, and then it's explained to them why that's happened. And we've actually had a couple of people who've been banned from use of our Facebook page because they've been quite inflammatory comments.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I was of the understanding by this person that every single comment was moved, not just the inappropriate ones.
If they're all removed, that was because they're all.
So we had a pretty toxic response.
To not adhere to our guidelines. They're quite strict guidelines around our Facebook page to protect our people and the community.
Yeah, okay.
And you and our elected members.
No, good decision. I don't have a problem with that. The other question was in regards to us maybe being seen as being a bit political in this space, seeing that we had a former mayor also promoting the same e-petition on her
I
Facebook
believe
page.
it's part of our policies or strategy, is that not correct? Yes. We have a position.
Through you, Mayor. So we did workshop this item again, and council has a strong position in relation to trying to advocate to minimise the harms that we were seeing from electronic gaming in the Golden Mile of Glenorchy, the impacts it has on people's lives, and the major focus of council's involvement in this has been keeping our eye on the ball about what's the major reason for this. It's not to it's to get engaged in politics in terms of the issue, but in terms of the personalities, it's not about the personalities, it's about the issue.
Right.
Yes, can I just ask for a bit of information? Does anyone remember the amount that's lost each month? It's significant. Is it 17 million? In 1 month? December. Yes. And when you think we have quite a vulnerable population, that's a lot of money not going on to food, rent, and other important expenses for the welfare of their families.
It's only pokies, that's not horse
That's
racing.
only pokies, yes.
No, other sorts of gambling.
We had a very good presentation, so please continue.
Yeah, and the other question I was asked was, a council, obviously this was an operational decision, correct? Well, I know for a fact the elected members didn't vote on it. So.
We're not allowed to vote on it.
I know, so CEO, this is an operational decision?
That's through you, Mayor, that's correct. The council has a clear position on this. We did seek the guidance of elected members, but it was an operational decision.
And from memory, it was to a deadline too.
Yeah. And the other question I was asked was, are council and will council be considering putting other e-petitions on the Facebook social media page of council, i.e. for example, the banning of greyhound racing? Are we considering doing supporting any other e-petitions, CEO?
Through you, Mayor, we considered this one when it came forward. We haven't had any other proposals at this stage. There's no proposals for bringing others forward, but we'll certainly consider if there are other worthy petitions, then we would consider them. But as we said with the previous question, we sought elected member guidance, and we had council has a clear statement of commitment on that particular issue. Council doesn't have, if we use the hypothetical greyhounds, council doesn't have a position on greyhounds. That there would need to be a council position established before officers started to take that sort of step. So this is a different issue to e-gambling. Council's got a really clear position on harm minimisation, and that's what the officers' focus was. If the council officers are not going to just get involved in any random e-petition that's coming along, because council, we need to be operating according to a clear council position.
No worries. Thanks for answering those questions through me on behalf of the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Alderman Marks.
Yes, I've also, on the Tolosa Park redevelopment, I've had numerous people come to me and ask me if it's open, and I've said, yes, it's open. Is there any chance we can put at least one sign up saying, hey, public, you're welcome into this area? Because so many people are saying they want to go in there, but they don't go because they think it's closed.
Yes, yes, we can do that. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Mary.
And we'll put notices up on both.
Yeah, that's very good.
Yep. Any questions without notice? Right, I think we'll close it. Thank you, Alderman King and Alderman Slade. So the motion before us is to move to close the open and open the closed. Thank you very much. Thank you. Steenbergen. And with that, we'll bring this meeting to a close. We'd like to thank you for participating in local government and listening to the debate. I hope you've enjoyed it, and we look forward to seeing you again next month.